Sentence to Be a Hero fans. This is Chris Bolts coming in with an episode review of this week's episode 4, Stand by Order, Murried Fortress. But before I do get into the content, do make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really helps me out. Now, let me go ahead and just reiterate that when it comes to Sentence to Be a Hero, I want more action than story. And unfortunately for this particular episode, it was pretty much all story. Now, that doesn't mean that it was a bad episode or anything like that. It's just, for me personally, I want to see more action associated with Sentence to Be a Hero than the amount of story that we were getting right here. Now, we see that the heroes are making their way to a new city, and that city is called Murried Fortress, or otherwise known as Wayfarer's Nest. There's a festival going on right now at the moment. Big marketplace things going on. You see Venom and Dota sitting there talking to each other. Go to another scene where we have some quiet time with Xylos. Xylos, who happens to like poetry, is reading a poetry book. He gets a visit from Teorita. She's interested in wanting to go out and have fun on the town. Xylos hasn't said he wants to stay in and just then read his book and whatnot, and finding out that he likes poetry actually surprises her. And then we have Kivia that comes along, and this next scene seems more like a mother, father, daughter moment with Xylo and Kivia acting as the guardian of Teorita, because Teorita, she just appears to be like a kid and all. But this episode, what it also does is it gives us a lot of lore with regards to the goddesses, and let's just say that the Galtil, which is the name of the military outfit in this particular series, wanted to do some experimentations on the goddesses, because once they found out that Xylo was able to kill a goddess, he killed goddess Sinerva. We found that out in the first episode. Once they found that out, they decided they wanted to go ahead and be able to do that so that they could mass produce goddesses. So that was a big no-no for Kivia. Kivia wanted no part of that, and Xylos, once he finds out all this information about what the intent of what Galtil had for Teorita and what they have been thinking about goddesses to begin with, it further upsets him and enrages him about their mistreatment of people. The thing about Xylo is he has a really good heart of justice. He doesn't like to see people suffer injustices or anything like that. And we get some more lore right here. The goddesses act as a kind of a gate, with each one having a different nature. They tell us that some goddesses have the power of poison, another one can see the future, another one can bring out lightning and thunder or whatnot. But all of them, of all the goddesses, the Galtil and the temple considered that Teorita, whose power is just simply summoning swords, to be the weakest out of all of them, which technically I don't think that's a really weak power. I think it's a pretty strong power, but I digress. It doesn't matter what I think, it matters what the denizens of this city, of this world, think about goddesses. So we have a nice spot right here where Teorita goes and buys these ice creams for herself, for Xylos, and also for Captain Kivia. But it's short-lived and whatnot, because after that, Xylo is told by Kivia that their next mission, the hero's next mission, is to defend the fortress from the Demon Blight, as you see right here, being told to them by this captain. And at first, it was supposed to just only be the heroes that were going to be defending this entire giant castle, which would be next to impossible. So there's a little bit of grounded realism that we have right here, that even though they're considered heroes and they have significant power, it's not enough power to actually just guard an entire fortress by themselves. So Venom over here is going to do a little bit of negotiating to get some additional stuff from the captain and go from there. So the little bit of action that we do get, well, actually, before we actually talk about the action, we actually get a little bit of a backstory about Venom. Venom is actually a very skilled negotiator. He's actually a con man. And there was a little bit of meta here in this particular episode as we're talking about Venom's backstory. And we have this Inquisitor here that my face is covering. This Inquisitor here is pretty much impressed with Venetum's communication skills, his ability to go in there and commit large fraud. The reason why he's even actually here is because he was trying to sell the palace to a circus troupe, and he tried to do that by convincing them that everybody had abandoned the city, and but his crimes had eventually caught up to him. But the reason why he was sentenced to be a hero is not so much that he was committing all these crimes. The clergy here says we can tolerate that. We could tolerate you going in there and celebrating crimes and making up crimes and whatnot. What we can't tolerate from you, however, is you telling the truth, and that's exactly what they put him in jail for. And he goes right here. He says, "I don't know anything," but actually he does know. He published the truth because what he had gotten in trouble for that led to him being right here and then convicting him of telling the truth was that he was publishing stories about how the temple and the Galtil and even the royal family were all infiltrated, and there's a lot of corruption and decadence that's happening in those particular institutions. And the guard here tells him that yeah, you telling the truth, that's a punishable offense. We can't have you telling the truth. And the reason why they don't want Venetum telling the truth is because he tells it he tells his lies so convincingly that people end up believing him. So if he was to just imagine if he was to do that with telling the truth. So they locked him up, sentencing him to be a hero. And cut to the present, we now are introduced to the next hero that's going to be part of the group here, and that's this guy right here, Sav. Sav apparently has a good heart as well. He doesn't care for punishment. He cuts this guy hand off. So this entire episode, like I said, it wasn't a bad episode. Obviously, it's just that when it comes to sentenced to be a hero, I want more action than I want story. But this gave us a good amount of story. It gave us a really good amount of world building with us being introduced to Wayfarer's Nest, introduced some new characters. It gave us a little bit of lore with the goddesses and explained their entire role and everything. But the thing that was just missing overall, it's a fine, when it doesn't have the action, sentenced to be a hero, it's just a fine anime. It's not groundbreaker or anything like that. That first episode really should have been replicated into the other episodes. That doesn't necessarily mean that there should have been the same amount of the same quality of animation, because obviously that's not going to happen. The first episode was treated more like a feature film, but the other episodes could have some of the same amount of action and intrigue and things of that nature like the first episode had. So I'm going to be giving this episode a 7 out of 10. I think it was, like I said, a good episode, fine episode, but other than that, it's nothing to write home about. What did you guys think of this episode? Jump down in the comments and let me know what you think. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. All that stuff really helps me out. And remember, this is Chris Bolt signing off, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy.